make time for the things that matter to you. And that for me is working out. So if any women are looking for good workout classes, including Pilates, weightlifting, there's a platform called Uplift that I love, and I've been doing those workouts for 5 years now, I guess, since COVID. And it's like all weightlifting based and then also power Pilates, and the power Pilates classes are so good. That's what I just finished, and it's all on Zoom, which I love because it makes it easy when you're traveling around. Because I'm actually currently in New Jersey. So the reason why I wasn't on last Friday was because I was driving cross country with my husband and dogs from Arizona to New Jersey. This isn't the first time that we've done that journey. We've done it quite a few times now, so I kind of know what to expect. It's not the most fun time in the world, but we do have our spots that we love along the way. So if you're ever doing a cross country road trip, we have the best coffee spots and food spots in like each city along the way. And surprisingly, speaking of coffee, because this is the Friday grind and I was trying to make it like a whole coffee chat thing, Oklahoma City has probably the best coffee shop that we've tried in the country. I'm definitely a coffee snob, and I don't say that lightly. Prelude in Oklahoma City, if you're ever there, hands down best coffee. I've never had a bad drink from them. They have a specialty menu. I pretty much order something different every single time off their specialty menu when we're doing our cross country drives, and it is just the best. This time we had a blueberry cold foam iced or blueberry cold foam cold brew. Delicious. But then I also had a orange creamsicle rooibos latte. So rooibos is like a type of tea. So they make the syrup with like orange creamsicle and rooibos tea, and then they also add espresso to it, and it is it was crazy good. And I feel like I can just never I'll never be able to replicate that because it's just the best coffee. So if you're curious, and in Phoenix, my favorite is Moxie. Moxie, hands down, the best. I'm just trying to open LinkedIn here to make sure I can see your questions because I haven't been able to. Oh, okay. There we go. Sorry if you heard that sound and sound. All right. So what am I drinking in terms of coffee? Oh, another thing I'm still trying to adjust to being on the East Coast. My schedule's all messed up. Normally I go to bed at like 9 o'clock, and I've been going to bed at 11, which is very late for me. So I've been waking up at like 7 or 8 and still just not feeling very rested, which is never fun. So I feel like the days have just been going by so quickly because it still feels like 8 a.m. right now, but it's 11 a.m. on the East Coast. So I need to really focus on getting back in the swing of things. But anyways, I need to drink some water because I haven't drank anything after my workout. The whole theme of today's live is AI and how we're using AI in the analytics engineering workflow. I'm curious to hear from you kind of how you are also using AI, whether you're using the AI features in dbt, like dbt Copilot, whether you use VS Code extensions, what common tools in your data stack have AI capabilities built in. I feel like I haven't actually used AI much for like modern data stack type things. I haven't really used like the AI integrations like for dbt, for example. All of the other tools that I've used in my most recent role didn't necessarily have AI in it. So no, this isn't recorded. This is live. So hello, I can see all your comments. Happy to answer anything. What was I saying? So I haven't been using AI in the like necessarily AI features within tools, if that makes sense. I've been more so using AI from like a prompt and data development standpoint, like really using it to either help with project management or to do a lot of the like the things that are quite tedious as an analytics engineer that you don't really have, sorry, I'm getting distracted by the comments. The tedious things of analytics engineering that you might not have to use like as much technical knowledge or knowledge of business processes, that kind of things. So I use typically Claude is like my main AI engine. I haven't explored too much. I kind of just use that one because I find that it works and it's really good. So if something's working, why change it? But if you have any recommendations for other ones, I'm also open to that. And for reference, the reason I wanted to talk about AI today is because of a question that I got in my Learn Analytics Engineering newsletter chat, which you can join for free. I typically let anyone post in there and respond to my threads. It's not closed for paid newsletter members. So definitely go in there and check that out because I always answer questions and I'm asking for feedback, that kind of thing. So let's see, what exactly was the question? How to survive the AI-induced tight market, and adding value in a space where AI is making easier to accelerate development. Do I use it or be replaced by someone that does, but to what grade? Do I need to go ahead and be able to deploy AI agents? Personally, I don't think you're going to need to deploy AI agents. I think the way we work as analytics engineers isn't going to change. Like the fundamentals will always be the same of like, just let's take the dimensional data modeling process, for example. Like you need to talk to the business, you need to figure out what problem they're trying to solve, what they actually need. You then need to determine like the grain of your data models and determine the facts and dimensions, and that is like more of the technical things. And then you need to iterate that whole process. So AI isn't going to be able to replace the gathering of the business context because like stakeholders won't be able to just give that to AI because they don't necessarily know what they need because they don't have that background knowledge of data. So I think analytics engineers will always be involved in that process of kind of like gathering all the requirements and understanding what stakeholders need and like what they're struggling with most, and then looking at the raw data or what data isn't even available and creating data products out of those. So I think that process will always be the same, but the development process will definitely be accelerated with the AI. So you need to make sure that you're using the right tools to just kind of speed up that process and make it easier and more seamless. And one of those things I think AI is really helpful in is project management. Now, this definitely depends like what your data team looks like, but the past data teams that I've worked on have never had project managers. It's always been kind of on the data people, which that's another topic for itself because there's a reason there's a whole role and that's a particular skill, and there's so many different skills that come along with that I don't necessarily think data people should be project managers. But if you're working on a small team, that's just how it is. And AI can be really useful for like gathering all of your meeting notes and kind of deciding like what's already been done, what needs to be done as next steps, that kind of thing. And just like having one organized hub for all of your resources around a certain project. I know for me, I haven't always been the most organized person, and AI has really been able to help me just take all of my different thoughts and put them in one place and make it easier for me to like go back and reference, and stay organized with my tasks. So that is something that I definitely recommend using AI for. Let's see. Yes, shout out to Ziad for making that, or for asking that question in the Learn Analytics Engineering Substack chat. Agentic AI or MCP. I haven't really found a need for that. I think that's more going to be like a separate role, like AI engineers or with software engineers, but not necessarily with data people. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe that will change. But for right now, I don't see a need to do that. But I'm curious to hear all of your thoughts. Mainly using Azure Stack, so the main way I use AI is as a RAG tool. I created an Azure Assistant by parsing a ton of MSFT docs into my vector DB, much more efficient than Googling. That's pretty cool. I think another good point is like, it depends the kind of company that you're working for. I think with like more enterprise company, I think it's going to be maybe more necessary to learn to do that things, like depending on the tool that you're working with. So I'm curious what kind of company you're working with, Robert. But for more of like the startup, like small companies under 200 people, under 500 people, I think like AI isn't even really something that's necessarily on their mind in terms of like the tooling, because they might not have the most sophisticated tools or the most budget for that kind of thing. So like in my last role, a lot of it was just building out core data models. Like we didn't have any core data models built out, and like you can't really do all of the other AI enabled things if you don't have that core foundation. So a lot of it is also recognizing like what kind of company do you want to work for? Like if you want to work for more enterprise, like with a really sophisticated data organization, you might have to learn that stuff. But if you're interested in working for more of the startup atmosphere on a small scrappy team, it's probably not going to be as necessary. It's going to be more necessary to use AI in like the data development process to just speed up the things that you're already doing, not necessarily do something new. If that makes sense. Why do you think the AE role is adopted only on Europe and US and not in the Middle East region? Honestly, I don't really know much about how data is being used in the Middle East, so that's something I can't really speak on. I don't want to make any wrong assumptions there, so if you can give me some more context, maybe. Independent consultant, yeah. So I'm sure you're working with companies of all different size where I mean, I'm sure a lot of companies probably come to data consultants and are like, hey, we want to use AI. How can we use it right now? And some probably are in a state and some probably aren't in a state. But I know like that's just seems like a lot of companies are wanting to add it to their stacks or their software just to kind of say that they're using it to their customers and saying that like to show that they're keeping on board with the latest tech, which is kind of funny because I think a lot of these companies that are all about AI and wanting to get AI on board haven't been like very receptive of more modern data strategy. And it's like maybe you should invest in the modern data strategy side of things before you're thinking about AI. It's like they want to go from 0 to 100 and you can't really skip that middle section. Do you think an analytics engineer needs to spend a year or two to become mid-level? Yeah, you definitely need experience. I mean, if you don't have experience, you're going to be a beginner no matter like what field you came from. Like I came from data engineering and that was, I worked there for 2 to 3 years, but I still considered myself a beginner analytics engineer when I started off in analytics engineering, because yes, I had a lot of the technical skills, but I didn't necessarily have that business communication, which takes time to build up. And in order to be considered mid-level, I think you definitely have to be strong in both the technical and the soft skills. I'm curious if anyone has used dbt Copilots, because I have actually not used that at all. I'm kind of like ride or die dbt core, now I guess dbt fusion, just because I don't know, I've never really liked using the cloud UI for development. I think naturally as like a developer, you like using, tools like VS Code, and you like using your terminal, and you don't want to have to open up like dbt Cloud. So I haven't really taken advantage of the AI features, but I'm excited for the VS Code extensions because I do like the Ultimate Datamates extension right now. Like that's really helpful, and it just like again speeds up development because you don't have to make like dbt boilerplate code, and some documentations and tests can be automatically filled out for you, and that stuff surprisingly can take a lot of time. I think we don't realize how long like documentation and like adding basic tests takes until we actually look at the time and like how long did I spend doing this. So I'm excited for just all of the AI capabilities like built in with VS Code. Yeah, dbt is great. I do wonder how things are going to be in the future just because of kind of the marketing towards more of the data analyst, and how it's empowering the analyst to get their own business decisions, which I guess this is another thing. um, it's kind of a fine balance between empowering data analysts and stakeholders to make their own decisions, while also, kind of keeping that in the hands of like data and analytics engineers. And I do think AI powered, I guess, like data analyzing tools, like AI tools that kind of act as like your AI data analyst, are going to be really powerful. But I do think you still need to have like the strong foundational data models. And a lot of teams don't have that, and that really requires the analytics engineers and the data analysts working together to figure out what those core data models need to look like before you can then add AI capabilities on top of it. In your opinion, how much dbt Airflow does a junior analytics engineer to take his first job? I mean, I think those skills, or at least the principles behind them, are pretty foundational. There are definitely analytics engineers that don't use dbt, but there are so many roles that do, that I think it's kind of just like a must. You need to understand like modularity, transformation practices, like how models versus views, incremental models, like SQL, obviously. I don't think you necessarily have to be like a dbt expert, although I do think it helps. I think dbt is a pretty easy tool to learn. You just really need to be aware of the foundational skills that underlie dbt. But again, like a lot of roles do require dbt, and if you're a recruiter, you're probably going to go for the person that has dbt experience, which most analytics engineers do. So I definitely think it's just better to know that and add that to your resume. And I do have the Data Pipeline Summer Challenge from last year that goes over dbt and Prefect, which is an Airflow, different orchestration tool, in depth, and you can pretty much walk through that and create your own portfolio project using that Data Pipeline Summer Challenge. I will write that in the chat. I recommend this to a lot of people because I really include a lot of the foundational knowledge along the way, and you're also building a portfolio project. So it's really powerful, and you can do it on your own terms. You don't have to follow along with any videos or anything. It makes it super easy, when you have some time to work on it. And again, you can put it on your portfolio, on your resume, that you have experience with those tools and those principles. I'm not a huge fan of Airflow, so but I do like Prefect, and again, like I think if you understand those basic principles behind orchestration, you can apply that to any tool, but it does help just to have the tools on your resume for a recruiter that's screening. So if an organization doesn't have any data pipeline tools and just uses BQ, what's your Recommendation on how to get started with automating the transformation step. Is there a DBT like tool in the Google Cloud platform, or is it best to just use DBT? So you could use DBT and like DBT Cloud with GCP to help act as your transformation tool. So you don't have to necessarily use one tool or the other. Let me make sure. I'm pretty sure DBT and GCP work together. Yeah, so you would just use you would set up a DBT project. Again, like you can do it in cloud if you don't want to have to worry about orchestration. DBT Cloud is pretty easy to use, and connect it to BigQuery using one of the DBT adapters, and you can automate your SQL transformations using GCP if that's where your data is. So hopefully that answers your question, Katie. I would definitely just use DBT because, yeah, it's just going to help create better scalable data models in the future, and the tools work perfectly together in a modern data stack. So that's usually just like the standard, and DBT Cloud, depending on your company and the number of like seats you need, isn't too expensive. I find it funny that Microsoft built the Copilot branding and now everyone is using it. Is Copilot within DBT part of the Microsoft product, or is it just that they happen to be named the same? I would think that Microsoft wouldn't allow that, but do you see SQL Mesh as a pure either or with DBT or their clear use cases? This is a great question, and this is actually something that I'm in the process of researching and writing about for this summer's Data Pipeline Summer Challenge, which will be coming out the end of July for paid newsletter subscribers. But I'm basically going to go into detail about why you would want to use SQL Mesh versus DBT and how to get started with SQL Mesh. You can use both together. I think it's more so though if you're already on DBT and like you're having performance issues, or it's expensive to run your DBT models, then you can kind of offload some of those to SQL Mesh where it makes sense, or you can slowly transfer over to SQL Mesh. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be talking about that more and how to use SQL Mesh because I've been very curious about this myself. So I want to test it out and write about it all for you in my newsletter. So if you have any other questions related to that, I will note those so I can include them in the newsletter post that I'm doing as part of the Data Pipeline Summer Challenge, because I am very excited for that, and I've just been nerding out with SQL Mesh and figuring out like the best way to explain that and make it easy to understand and everything. By the way, I have my coconut latte, which I think I've had this pretty much every episode of the Friday Grind, because these coconut lattes are just so good. And I find that even when I'm getting coffee out, I just want to come back and have this. Yeah, DBT is great. 700 billion rows in ClickHouse and BigQuery. That's kind of crazy. Honestly, 700 billion rows. I wonder if SQL Mesh would be better for performance and cost reasons for something like that, because that's a lot of data, and I don't think I've ever had to deal with 700 billion rows in data. Yes, the summer challenges, last year's summer challenge was also only for paid subscribers. More of the project tutorial base just takes a lot of research and setup because you are, coming up with dummy data and all these business scenarios. Like that's what this year's project is really going to be focused on, kind of taking like an actual business problem with actual business data, um, and learning the different pipelines pieces to apply to that and like how you can solve these problems, because that's something I've realized. A lot of projects out there, they use real data sets, but the data sets aren't necessarily business problems. And I think, yes, it can be fun to solve like problems on real data, but if they're not actual business problems that you would face like on the job, they're not super helpful. So I wanted to create fake data and a fake business use case, but actually with like a business problem that would happen in data that would, look like it would on the job. So I think this year's challenge is going to be really powerful, and it's going to be all open source, which is exciting. So you don't have to worry about like setting up all these free trials for all these different tools. You can just, create it for free and you can build on top of it and include it in your portfolio. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely sign up as a paid newsletter subscriber. It's literally only $11 a month. um, and, over the course of the challenge, that's like what, $30, which is less than a book, and you'll have a nice portfolio project at the end of it. So if there's anything too you want to learn with data pipelines specifically, let me know, and I'm always happy to include it and answer questions along the way. But yeah, we're going to be doing SQL Mesh, DuckDB. Trying to think what else. Those are the two that I've like officially decided on. The other tools I'm still kind of trying to decide what I want to use, but those are the main ones, and those are two that I've actually never used before. So you're going to get a true beginner's perspective of how easy it is to use and why you would want to use that. If I had a problem with the challenge, can I ask you? Yeah, absolutely. I am very involved with the challenge setup. You can always leave a comment on the posts in the challenge or in the subscriber chat, and I'm always happy to answer those and help you debug something. Okay, the whole point of the challenge is to be super hands-on while still, teaching you the foundational skills and like the why behind everything, not just showing you how to do everything, but explaining like why you want to do things a certain way. Is the challenge suitable for a beginner? Yes, definitely. I try to explain everything in like the most easy to understand way possible, so it'll definitely be suitable for beginners. And if there's something that I'm not going super in depth on, I will link to past newsletters, which you get the whole library of newsletter posts if you are a paid subscriber, so you'll easily be able to read up about that, whether it's like something about facts and dimensions or choosing grain of a data model. All that kind of good stuff will definitely be included. And that is going to be my main plan for today, is just focusing on data pipeline summer. And like honestly, those are the best days when I just get to research and write. Love those. What do you think makes a strong portfolio project? I mean, what do we need to show in it? So a strong portfolio project, I think, shows a wide array of skills. So like, again, being able to show that you know data ingestion tools, that you know how to set up a data warehouse, that you are good with SQL, that you know basic data modeling principles, that you understand what orchestration is, writing clear commented code. This is actually something that I could probably do a whole newsletter on. So maybe I will do that as like a follow-up to Data Pipeline Summer, is like how to actually turn this into a portfolio project on your GitHub. I think that's actually a great idea. I'm definitely going to do that. But yeah, just like showing that you have a clear problem and that you have a solution, and like even just your thought process of how you are approaching that problem and why you're doing what you're doing. I think it's important to not just like give someone a bunch of code, because who's going to read over a bunch of code? Like a good summary of kind of like why you made the certain decisions that you did is what you want to show, because yes, the code is important, but like the chances of someone reading over the code is probably pretty small, but kind of walking through your thought process is they're probably more likely to do. So the challenge is going to begin at the end of July. But you can also start by going through last year's data pipeline summer, which isn't open source, but includes tools like dbt, Snowflake, Prefect, all really great tools, and it also includes like a pretty good overview of setting up your data warehouse, what even is a data pipeline, why you would want to use that one. So it would be great to like just go over that last challenge in the month leading up to the next one, and then that'll just help reinforce the concepts in the new data pipeline summer challenge. The biggest pitfall I see most people struggle with isn't actually the level of technical skills in their portfolio project. It's the presenting the results like a business is used to seeing them and discussing the impact in tangible business terms. Yes, exactly. Like the thought process behind things is so important, and like the problem, the value that you're actually driving, and why you made certain decisions that you did. Again, like, yeah, people don't want to just see that you made certain technical decisions because they have no idea why. You need to explain them. I hope it blows the hiring manager's mind. That's always the goal, right? Okay, well, that is the end of today's the Friday grind. Thank you all for joining and being so interactive. This was a lot of fun. I just love chatting with everyone, and definitely check out the Data Pipeline Summer Challenge, and look out for the open source edition, especially the posts on SQL Mesh. It's going to be a lot of fun. I will post the last year's challenge again if you want to take a look. And if you want to have a say in what next week's topic is on the Friday grinds, definitely go check out the subscriber chat for the Learn Analytics Engineering newsletter. I'm trying to be more active with that, just because I want to hear more about what everyone's up to, and you know, give as much value as I can possible here on LinkedIn. So have a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.